host. Peace and blessings to all my beautiful people. Happy Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, family. We are so thankful to be back, having our services in the presence of our home. To those who had been following us along this journey, we was in the process of moving and relocating, and was not able to have these types of services. But all praises to the Most High. This is our first service. Say, this year is this first service this year. This is our first service in 2021. Like how we was doing it in 2020. So all praises to the Most High. Welcome to Judah United. Today's message we're going to be going through is called "What You Living Out? You Truly Willing to Die For?" If you're a follower of my music, we just dropped No Chill movie. And the song No Chill, in that song, one of my favorite lines is, "What you living out? You truly willing to die for? I'm high. This is my spiritual rank." Revelations 2:9, I'm a spiritual bank. Y'all know how it go. But it's what you living out, you truly willing to die for. I'm here to tell you, family, that we in days and we in times where the Most High is drawing a line between those who are real and those who pretend. And in these times right now, you got to decide who you really going to ride with and what sides you really going to be on. And you need to be bold. And you need to stand tall in that side. And if it means giving up your life for the Basora, if it means giving up your life for the Torah, if it means giving up your life for Yahuwah, we know that Yahusha said in the scriptures, he who seeks to gain his life shall lose it. And he who loses his life for my sake shall have everlasting life. Are you a believer that if it came down to it, you were willing to give up your life for the gospel? We are in perilous times, and we're seeing it all around us. We're seeing it increase every day. The world is in so much turmoil. There are so many signs of the times going around and going on around us each and every day. There are so many things going on. I'm here to tell you, when it comes to the mark, when it comes to Satan forcing those who do not have what he requires for you to buy, sell, or trade, will you have the strength it takes to say no? When it comes to Satan's putting those of us who are believers in the tribulation period, when it comes to the time when they say either you give in and you go with the beast system or you give your life, do you have the strength? Do you have the fortitude? Do you have the focus? Do you have the Ruach HaKadosh that will give you the strength to say, I will lay down my life for this gospel? Is what you living out, you truly willing to die for? Today we're going to get into a serious history lesson, right? And we're going to be coming out of the book of Maccabees, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Now, if you have not been doing your due diligence and you are not familiar with the book of Maccabees, we know that there was a period of time in which there's not recorded between the Old Testament and the New Testament. There's a few hundred years where some history was missing. That was covered in books like Maccabees, correct? And for some reason, well, we know the reason, those of us who do our due diligence, Rome, who we're going to be reading about here in the book of Maccabees, you're going to read about who they are and how they moved against the true people of Yah, how they moved against the Hebrew people of Yahuwah, and how they always had a perpetual hate towards Yah's chosen people, or anyone who chose the true and living Elohim, Yahuwah of hosts. And so, when we begin to do our due diligence, you're going to hear some things that you may have learned in school, but you got it from one side. You didn't get the true history of the true biblical people. And I'm here to tell you, not only is the Apocrypha the inspired word of Yah, but it is our history book. And we must know our history because our past is going to help us in our future. Let's go. We're going to be reading out of Maccabees. Start reading for me chapter 1. My machine.
And it came to pass after that, Alexander the Macedonian, the son of Philip, who came out of the land of Chittim, and struck Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. It came to pass after he had struck him that he reigned in his stead in former time over Greece. And he fought many battles and won many strongholds and killed the kings of the earth and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of a multitude of nations, and the earth was quiet before him. And he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And he gathered together an exceedingly strong army, and ruled over countries and nations and principalities.
Pause where you at. The mics were not cut on, so I don't know if they heard anything. But the mics were not cut on. Where are you at?
I just read verse 1 through 4.
Okay. Go ahead. Read 4 again.
And he was gathered together an exceedingly strong army, and ruled over countries and nations and principalities, and they became tributary to him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. And he called his servants, which were honorable, which had been brought up with him from his youth, and he divided to them his kingdom while he was yet alive. And Alexander reigned 12 years, and he died.
Pause. Do you know who Alexander is? Now this right here, this is the book of Maccabees. Who is Alexander? Alexander the Great, which when we go to school that is sanctioned and ruled by Rome, or sanctioned and ruled by the synagogue of Satan, sanctioned and ruled by Satan, they teach us all about Alexander the Great. They teach us all about the people who they want us to view as prominent people from their view. Remember, the victor tells history, correct? So you study this right here in the book of Maccabees, chapter 1. It says Alexander ruled how many years?
12.
Now Google Alexander the Great and how many years he ruled. 12. This is Alexander the Great. And it also says he was from the land of Chittim or Chile, which goes back to Rome. Ultimately, it all goes back to a part of Rome. Let's go. Keep reading.
And his servants bare rule, each one in his place, and they did all put diadems upon themselves after that he was dead. And so did their sons after them many years, and they multiplied evils in the earth. And there came out of them a sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of Antiochus, the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. And those days came there out of Israel transgressors of the law.
Wicked men. In my version, it says wicked men. Keep going.
And persuaded many, saying, let's go and make a covenant with the Gentiles that are around us. For since we were parted from them, many evils have befallen us.
Pause right there. So this is what you have. You have some of us in Yasharel or Israel, some of us who are bloodline descendants of Abraham, who are the chosen seed of Jacob. We said in verse 11, it says, in those days, and there out of Yasharel, wicked men who persuaded many. So it says many were following them, saying, let us go and cut a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Understand, family, that in these times, right, those of us who are preaching the truth about what America is, which is a second Egypt to those of us who are the true seed of Abraham. America represents our bondage. America represents our suffering. America represents our slavery. America never was us. But there are many of us who don't want to let go not only of this wicked land and its customs and the culture it is created for them, but it also don't want to give away or give up the customs of the heathen. They want to live like the heathen. We have to begin to decide that we're going to draw a line. If a person is deciding that they're not going to serve Yah and they're not going to be set apart, then we have to set ourselves apart. We know the scripture says bad company corrupts good character. We know in James 4:4 it says a friendship with the world is enmity against Elohim. So if we are accompanying ourselves and connecting ourselves to people who are deciding to chase after the ways of the world, then it is going to be our pitfall in these times. I'm here to tell you, begin to separate yourself. Begin to figure out who is truly seeking this thing with everything in them. Who is truly saying, no matter what, I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do, whether you mama, daddy, son, daughter, if you do not choose to live for Yahuwah, then that is on you. Because I'm going to serve him, and in my house we will serve him to the fullest. Because the times are coming when things begin to tighten up. That we know in the scriptures it said that the mother will be giving up the son will be giving up the father. These very same people, if we don't begin to part ways and take a stand and be set apart, will be our pitfall. Keep reading.
And the saying was good in their eyes, and certain of the people were forward here in land, went to the king and gave them license to do after the ordinances of the Gentiles.
All right, so here is true Hebrew people, correct? These are descendants of Jacob who Yahuwah struck a covenant with these people, and they went and got permission from the Gentiles or the government, the governing body, because if you read earlier in there, it tells you how Alexander the Great, they began to conquer lands and take over lands. So they became the government, the governing body over these different lands by force. They took them by force. And it says that some of our people went and got permission from them, not following after Yahuwah, not following after the Most High and his ways, but they went and got permission from the heathen and the governing bodies so that they can transgress the Torah and follow after the heathen's ways. Verse 14.
And they built a place of exercise in Jerusalem according to the laws of the Gentiles, and they made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the Gentiles and sold themselves to do evil.
Man, that's powerful. Skip down to 19. Read 19 for me.
And they got possession of the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils of Egypt. And Antiochus, after he had struck Egypt, returned in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude.
Pause right there. Now, who took Egypt? And took the spoils of Egypt, took the customs of Egypt, took the ways of Egypt, took the fallen angel knowledge of Egypt. Who took Egypt? The same people that we see in power this many years later. Their descendants, right? This is after Exodus. This is well after Exodus. This is the history that they wanted to keep from you. Keep reading, 21.
And entered presumptuously into the sanctuary and took the golden altar and the candlestick of the light and all that pertained thereto, and the table of the showbread and the cups to pour withal, and the bowls, and the golden censers, and the veil, and the crowns, and the adorning of the gold which was on the face of the temple, and he peeled it all off. And he took the silver and the gold and the precious vessels, and he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all, he went away into his own land, and he made a great slaughter, and spoke very presumptuously.
Or proudly, in my version. Keep reading.
And there came great mourning upon Yasharel in every place where they were. And the rulers and the elders groaned, the virgins and the young men were made feeble, and the beauty of the women was changed.
So in other words, there was so much misery and there was so much going on in this time, especially those of us who were sold out to the Most High, to see such profane things be done to the holy customs of our people, the holy temple that we had to Yahuwah, where we was worshiping Yahuwah, that came and defamed those things. It's like anybody, if someone come and be blasphemous against Yah, it should hurt us because of how we feel, right? If someone came and they did such profane things to your home or your house, and they broke in and all your precious things, they took it and they destroyed it, how would that make you feel? As somebody who's been there before, that is not a good feeling. It's a very violating feeling. Well, take that feeling and times it by 10 when somebody has broken into the house of Yahuwah, where you worship the Most High, where you serve the Most High, who you know and love, right? This is where our people were, crushed by this act of not only the heathen, but also our brethren who were for this, who were choosing this, who decided to turn and do evil. Keep reading.
Every bridegroom took up lamentation. She that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness, and the land was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was clothed with shame. And after 2 full years, the king sent a chief collector of tribute to the cities of Judah, and he came to Jerusalem with a great multitude. And he spoke words of peace to them subtly, and they gave him credits. And he fell upon the city suddenly, and struck it very sore, and destroyed much people out of Yasharel.
Pause right there. Now, I want you to take verse 30. And I want you to think about us today. This leader comes in and he speaks peaceful words to deceive the people, to gain the people's trust. It says, and he spoke peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. Some of our own brethren, some of our own family members has been turning against those of us who hear from the Ruach enough to call out the deceitful men in this country who come and speak peaceful words to you out of deceit. And when we call it out, you look at us, you turn and throw stones and hate upon us because we have enough discernment to say that he is deceiving us. These same wicked men who give us promises of what they're going to do for us, right? And get you to go and be in agreement for what they do by voting for them through their deceit and their promises, correct? And then you find out after they get your vote, after they got your agreement, they turn around and do the whole opposite thing. They run their whole presidency off your back, off your vote, off your strife, off promises, broken promises of what they're going to do for your people. And how things are going to be different this time, even though every time it's always been the same. Every time we've always had the same outcome, no matter what leader it was. And the sad part is they all play the same game. Whether it's me today in 2021 speaking this to you, or Malcolm X in 1960 saying it's the same game. They give you the promises that they're going to do this and that for you to get your vote, but then they get in the house and do total opposite. They deal with everyone else first, and they put you last. And the little bit they do is nothing at all. President Biden didn't get in the office off the Asian vote. President Biden got in the office because you came out in record numbers. President Biden didn't get in the office because the Asians were flooding the voting centers. President Biden got in the office because you were flooding the voting centers. It was your vote that got him in. Yet the Asians got a bill for hate. How many times have you seen people marching in the streets for something done to Asians? How many times have you seen breaking news on your television? Someone killed in the streets unjustly, and it was an Asian. But how many times have you seen it, and it was the true Hebrew people of Yah? How many times have you seen it when it was the people that he got in office behind? But they got a hate bill, and you got a holiday that you were already starting to celebrate. They told you that was okay. 30 is a very powerful scripture. It says, and he spoke peaceable words unto them, but all were deceived. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Yasharel. I'm here to tell you right now that the agenda that you are seeing this office push is going to destroy many people of Yasharel. This agenda to get you to put that poison into your body, to defile your temple. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, I believe it is. You never defile the temple of Elohim, and never depend on the wisdom of this world or this world's scientists, because that same scripture says that the wisdom of the world is foolishness to our Elohim. How is it that we trust man to be our savior? Man to save us from this plan, and you know the last word, demic. We expect man to save us from it through man's science, through man's solution. But where's y'all? Do you not have enough faith? Ye of little faith? Do you not believe that Yah is bigger than any virus, any sickness, any disease? That he won't cover you, that he won't keep you, and that you don't need to be altered for him to do so? Through man? Men who are not rooted in his word, men who are not rooted in his way, the same men who come and tell you that it's all right for little children to be transgender, the same men who are pushing transgenderism upon our children, the same men who are pushing that our children should not even come out of the womb with being either gender, that we should give them time to decide, is the same men who are pushing for your save, to save you through their poison. I'm here to tell you it's deceit, and many will perish behind it. Keep reading.
And he took the spoils of the city and set it on fire, and pulled down the houses thereof and the walls thereof on every side. And they led captive the women and the children and the cattle they took in possession. They that built the city of David with a great and strong wall with strong towers, it became to them a citadel. And they put there a sinful nation, transgressors of the law, and they strengthened themselves therein. And
so they've taken over, and they put wicked men in place. Skip down to 41.
And King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and that each should forsake his own laws.
Did y'all hear that? One people sounds like a one world order. Sounds like one government. Sounds like one rulership. Sounds like one religion. Keep reading.
And that each should forsake his own laws, that all the nations agree according to the word of the king. And many of Yasharel consented to his worship, and sacrificed to the idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
How many of our people right now celebrate the Sabbath? That these same people who took over in this history book, the same people is what we know as the Roman Catholic Church today. You do your research, you'll find out that the Roman Catholic Church said that the Sabbath would no longer be on Saturday, but it would be Sunday. How many of our people are profaning the Sabbath and keeping it when the Roman Catholic Church said keep it, and not when Yah said keep it? How many of us have consented to sacrifice unto idols? I myself at one time was guilty. I'll tell you, have you ever pulled up at Starbucks? Did you ever look at the deity that's the emblem of Starbucks? Did you look at that deity that's on every cup that they put over every store? That's an idol. And if you drink from there, then you drink food. Or if you eat from there, you eat and you drink food, sacrifice unto an idol. Keep reading, 44.
And the king sent letters by the hand of messengers to Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they shall follow laws strange to the land. and should forbid whole burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the sanctuary, and should profane the Sabbaths and feasts, and pollute the sanctuary and those who were holy. That they should build altars and temples and shrines for idols, and should sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
Pause. Sacrifice and drinks in the temple, and they should profane the Sabbath and the feast days. Yahshua, when you study the scriptures, not only was he the Passover lamb who was sacrificed during Passover, but before that happened, kept Passover. You also read in the scriptures, I believe it's John 10, I believe, where it talks about keeping the Feast of Dedications. These feast days that we are supposed to be keeping, our customs, we have forfeited them, and we picked up things like Easter, which is really Ta'Easter, the fertility goddess, put in by Rome. We keep things like Christmas, which is really Saturnalia, put in by Rome. This history would let us know how things that we have accepted because we didn't know what occurred before as normal today, at one time was not only detestable to our people, but we know Yah is the same today, yesterday, and forevermore. So these things were detestable not only to our people, but to Yah then, and these things are detestable to those who truly are his people and have waken up to being his people. And Yah today, keep reading.
They should build altars and temples and shrines for idols, and should sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, and that they shall leave their sons uncircumcised, that they shall make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profaneness, and so that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whoever will not do according to the word of the king, he will die.
So now you see it's gotten to the point where the king is saying, if you ain't gonna do it, if you ain't gonna forfeit your ways, your customs, if you're not gonna stop serving Yah and follow me, you're gonna die. Our people are put into a position here in the book of Maccabees where they have to choose life or death. But see, here's the thing about our people in that time, because they not only did they know who they were, they wasn't in this lost state like many of our people are today who have forgotten the customs, who have forgotten the ways. Not even forgotten, you never even knew them. A lost people, just like the scripture said we would be. But these people were not lost. They knew their customs. They knew their forefathers. They knew their Yah. They knew who the Most High was. They knew his ways. They knew his customs. They knew what he required. They knew what they should do. They knew how to dress. They knew how to act. They knew everything in their culture that had been given to them specifically by him. They knew it. And they said, hold on. If I obey you, I disobey him. See, you may be able to kill the body, but he can kill the body and the ruach, or the spirit. Keep reading.
According to all these words wrote he to his whole kingdom, and he appointed overseers over all the people. And
sound like them gatekeepers, no? Keep going.
And he commanded the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. And from the people were gathered together to them many, every one that had forsaken the law, and they did evil things in the land. And they made Yasharel to hide themselves in every place of refuge which they had. And on the 15th day of Chislev, in the 145th year, they built an abomination of desolation.
Pause. They built an abomination of desolation. When you read in the book of Daniel, when it talks about the Antichrist, what is it refer to him as? The abomination of desolation. When you read in 2 Thessalonians, and it talks about the Antichrist, that abomination of desolation is what it is referred to. I'm saying that to bring this back to what where we are now. We are in a time where these things are about to occur, and the Antichrist is about to show his face. The abomination of desolation. This history is so key to you right now. You to see how your ancestors faced what we're about to be facing. Keep going.
They built an abomination of desolation upon the altar, and in the cities of Judah on every side they built idol altars. In the doors of the houses and in the streets they burned incense. And they tore in pieces the books of the law which they found and set them on fire. And whoever...
Pause. They burnt the Bibles. I'm here to tell you that very soon you see it circulating. Very soon they're going to be coming for these Bibles, and they're going to do it under the premise that it discriminates against gay people or homosexuals. This is what is coming. Keep reading.
And wherever was found with any a book of the covenant, and if any consented to the law, the king's sentence delivered him to death. So did they in their might to Israel to those that were found month by month in the cities. And on the 5th and 20th day of the month they sacrificed upon the idol altar of God, and the women that had circumcised their children they put to death according to the commandment.
So now they're killing women who decided, I'm circumcising my son, that's what y'all told me to do, that's what I'm going to do, whatever. Even though the king said if you do it, you die, they chose to do it anyway. Keep reading.
And they hanged their babes about their necks. And
read that again.
And they hanged their babes about their necks.
They hung the babies by the neck. Have you seen this before? What people have been hung by their necks as a spectacle from the hatred of the descendants of these people that did it to the descendants of those people. Keep reading.
And destroy their houses and those who had circumcised them. And many in Yasharel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat unclean things, and they chose to die, that they might not be defiled with the meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant, and they died. And there came exceedingly great wrath upon Yasharel.
So here at the end of chapter 1, we read that not only did our people decide that death was better than to defame the gospel, that death was better than to turn their backs on Yahuwah. They said, I'd rather give up the ghost than to eat meat, sacrifice to idols. And I'm about to bring it into this day. Some of y'all who love the crab legs, who love the pig, who love all of those things. That's the defamed things they are speaking about. Our people didn't do that because y'all said don't do that. So they said before I do that, I'd rather die. Some of us are doing it just because they got an all-you-can-eat buffet. We profane ourselves and we break the covenant daily. I'm here to tell you it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to get back to the customs and the ways of our forefathers and start focusing on Yahweh everything we got, because the time is coming and the time is short where your decisions will decide where you spend eternity. And the time is coming very fast. Read chapter 2 beginning at verse 7 for me.
Maccabees chapter 2. Verse 7, and he said, Woe is me, and why was I born to see the destruction of my people and the destruction of the holy city, and to dwell there when it was given into the hand of the enemy, the sanctuary into the hand of aliens. Her temple is become as a man that was glorious. Her vessels of glory are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in her streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. Which nation has not inherited her palaces and gotten possession of her spoils? Her adorning is all taken away. Instead of a free woman, she is become a bondwoman. And behold, our holy things and our beauty and our glory are laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned them. Why shall we live any longer?
Pause right there. We'll skip down to verse 18.
Now therefore come you first and do the commandment of the king, as all the nations have done, and the men of Judah and those who remain in Jerusalem, and you and your house will be in the number of the king's friends, and you and your sons will be honored with silver and gold and many gifts.
Pause. Now this is the father of Maccabees. Netanyahu, I believe is how you pronounce it. And so they come to him because he has a great name amongst the Hebrew people. And they come to him and they say, look, now therefore come you first and fulfill the king's commandments, like as all the heathen have done, and the men of Yehuda or Judah also. He's saying everybody else has given in, everybody else has took it. You and yours come take it. Now look, here comes the bribery. We know free burger, free lottery ticket. What's some of the other things that's going on right now?
Your name gets put into a lottery. Some jobs are offering like monetary bonuses.
$300. Here, come get you some free cigarettes. You name it, right? We see it all going on, right? Listen. And he says, now therefore come first and fulfill the king's commandments, like as all the heathen have done, and the men of Yehuda also, or Judah also, and such as remain at Yasharuzalim, so shall you and your house be in the number of the king's friends, and you and your children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. Then Netanyahu answered and spoke. So they are offering him silver, gold, money. They are offering him wealthy things. Listen at his response. It says, then Netanyahu answered and spoke unto a loud voice through all the nations that are under the king's dominion, obey him, and fall away everyone from the faith of their father. Hold on, excuse me. It says, through all the nations that are under the king's dominion, obey him, and fall away everyone from the faith of their fathers, and give consent of his commandments. It says, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers? Far be it that we should forsake the Torah and its ordinance. We will not hearken to the king's words, to go from our faith either on the right hand or on the left. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Yehudim, or one of our fellow brothers, who had decided to go after the ways of the heathen. It says, in the sight of all, to sacrifice on the altar which was at Medin, according to the king's commandments. So he says, I'm going to do what the king doing. So Netanyahu and them see another one of our brethren who has decided to hearken to the king and to choose evil. And it says, which thing when Netanyahu saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his mind trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to the judgment, wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the Torah of Elohim. Like Pentecost, what's your version say?
Phinehas.
Did unto Zimri,
Panikas.
the son of Shalom.
Yeah, Panikas.
Read 27 for me.
And
Netanyahu.
mine says Matthias.
Yeah.
Cried out in the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous for the law and maintains the covenant, let him come out after me. And he and his sons fled into the mountains and forsook all they had in the city.
Did y'all hear that? This is very important, people. I hope you are catching this message. This time so parallels of what we're entering, the times that we're entering. It says, so he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that they had in the city. If you gonna be stuck on material things, I'm here to tell you, you not gonna make it. If you can't drop this material things and the things of this world in a split second and do what you need to do, you will not make it. That very material thing that you're trying to grab is going to be what gets you plucked. We have to understand that in times to come, it's going to be tough. And if your car is more important than God, it's going to be exposed. If your house is more important than God, it's going to be exposed. If your wife is more important than God, it's going to be exposed. If your children are more important than God, it's going to be exposed. If you are more important to yourself than God, it is going to be exposed. Keep reading for me.
Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, they and their sons and their wives and their cattle, because evils were multiplied upon them. And it was told the king's officers and the forces that were in Jerusalem, the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandments were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness. And many pursued after them, and having overtaken them, they encamped against them and set the battle in array against them on the Sabbath day. And they said to them, so far, come out and do according to the word of the king, and you will live. And they said, we will not come out, neither will we do the word of the king to profane the Sabbath day. And they hurried to give them battle. And they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped up the secret places, saying, let us die all in our innocence, heaven and earth witness over us, that you put us to death without trial.
Put us to death wrongfully. In my version it says, but he said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully. They chose death because they didn't want to profane the Sabbath. And then I want you to pay attention that these wicked nations, the nation, the heathen, knew the customs of Yasharel, and they knew to attack them on the Sabbath. They waited until the Sabbath to attack them, knowing that they would rather die and make it easy for them than to profane the Sabbath. We have preachers standing in the pulpit telling us it don't matter. We have preachers standing in the pulpit saying with their intellect, well, I worship him on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. All that is well, but he commanded one day that you keep the Sabbath. He commanded that day. And these same people who we are reading about, who done these detestable things to our people, are the people who said, keep it this day. And we see here in this history book of Maccabees, when they came to our people at this time and they tried to change how they did things in the law, they said we'd rather die than change. Who are you and where are you today? Do you follow after the customs of the heathen or the government? Do you choose that over Yah? Is that more important than Yah? Do you do it openly or ignorantly? It doesn't matter. If you do it, you do it. And I'm here to tell you, we better wake up and wake up fast. And you better get back to studying what the true customs is. And you better be able to decipher what is being pushed by this wicked government and this wicked land that is in cahoots with Satan, and what is the customs, the ways, and the will of Yahuwah of hosts. Yahuwah don't need no nanobot technology to cure you or heal you. He ain't never needed it before this time, so why would he need it now? Keep reading.
And they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they died, they and their wives and their children and their cattle, to the number of 1,000 souls.
What verse is that?
That was 38.
38. Keep reading.
And Matthias and his friends knew it, and they mourned over them exceedingly. And one said to another, if we all do as our kindred have done, and fight not against the Gentiles for our lives and our ordinances, they will now quickly destroy us from off the earth. And
if we all do what they saying do, they're going to destroy us from off the earth. So let those of us who agree to serve Yah, let us fight. Let us fight for our customs. Let us fight for our Elohim. Let us fight that we continue on. Let us fight even if it means we die. But we're going to stand firm for the customs, for the ways of our Yahuwah. Keep reading.
And one said to another, if we all do as our kindred have done, and fight not against the Gentiles for our lives and our ordinances, they will not quickly destroy us from the earth. And they took counsel on that day, saying, whoever will come against us to battle on the Sabbath day, let's fight against him, and we will in no wise all die as our kindred die in the secret places. Then they were gathered together to them a company of Hazadeans, mighty men of Israel, everyone that offered himself willingly for the law. And all those who fled from the evils were added to them and became a state to them. And they mustered an army and struck sinners in their anger and lawless men in their wrath, and the rest fled to the Gentiles for safety. And Matthias and his friends went around and pulled down the altars, and they circumcised by force the children that were uncircumcised, as many as they found in the coast of Yasharel. And they pursued after the sons of pride, and the work prospered in their hand. And they rescued the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of the kings, neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. And the days of Matthias drew near that he should die, and he said to his sons, now have pride and rebuke gotten strength in a season of overthrow and wrath of indignation. And now, my children, be you zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers.
Read 50 one more time.
And now, my children, be you zealous for the law.
Or the Torah.
Zealous for the Torah, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. And call to remembrance the deeds of our fathers which they did in their generations, and receive great glory and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was reckoned to him for righteousness? Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and became Lord of Egypt. Phineas is our father, for he was zealous exceedingly, obtained the covenant of the everlasting priesthood. Joshua, for fulfilling the word, became a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness in the congregation, obtained a heritage in the land. David, for being merciful, inherited the throne of a kingdom forever and ever. Elijah, for that he was exceedingly zealous for the law, was taken up into heaven. Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael believed and were saved out of the flame. Daniel, for his innocence, was delivered from the mouth of the lions. And so consider you from generation to generation, that none that put their trust in him will lack for strength. And be not afraid for the words of a sinful man, for his glory will be dung and worms.
Verse 62 is where we will end it. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. I'm here to tell you people, you see what happened in these times where they came and they crushed our people, and they said, listen, you either gonna do as we say do, or we gonna take from you your life. Your women, your children, all of them were dying for the truth. Are you willing to die? Are you willing to lay down your life for this gospel? Are you willing to lay down your life for your relationship with Yah? Are you willing to give up everything that you obtained? Do y'all remember the rich man in the scriptures? The rich young man, when he said, I've kept all the commandments, I've done all of these things. What do I need to do? And Yahshua, knowing his heart, saying, sell all you possess and follow me. He went away with his head down because he had great possessions. It is time for us to detach ourselves from the things of this world, because I'm here to tell you, if you're not separating yourself and you're allowing the things of this world to taint your ruach, you're allowing the things of this world to taint your mind, then I'm telling you right now, you're not going to have a fortitude, you're not going to have a strength, and you're not going to have a focus to do what needs to be done in the times that are coming. Will you read Matthew 40? The 400 years ending mark the beginning of sorrows. When you go back to 1619, from 1619 plus 400, you get 2019. In the Hebrew calendar, the beginning of the year is in the month of Abib, which marked March 2020. What did they hit you with? They hit you with, you know what? The pandemic. Right? And I'm here to tell you that before that time, when you looked in this land and you seen the persecution of the people in this land, it was those who were bloodline descendants of Yasharel. In that 400 years, you did not see those people who were engrafted into Yasharel through faith in Yahushua HaMashiach, in faith in his sacrifice. You didn't see them persecuted. But you saw those of us, whether we knew it or not, whether we was in Islam, whether we was in 5%ers, whether we was running around thinking we were Egypt and hotels, whether we was running around saying we didn't believe in him at all, we was catching hell. Left, right, up, down, front, and back, because we were catching it because of the prophecy that Yahuwah gave Abraham way back in Genesis, that for 400 years, your descendants will be in slavery. And if you go back and you look at the time from the death of Joseph, or Yaakov, if you look at from the death of Joseph, when he was ruling over Mizraim or Egypt, if you look at that time to the birth of Moses, you do not get anywhere close to 400 years. Moses at 70 years old returns to Mizraim or Egypt for the Exodus. That was not the prophecy. It lands about 250 years span. Not even close to 400 years. But the time that those ships from Deuteronomy, you will go back on ships into Egypt or Mizraim, and no man will buy you. Well, we know that Israel has always been on the African tectonic plate. I don't care how many man-made canals that they put, it won't change the fact that Israel and what we call Africa is the same landmass. It don't take a ship to get to Egypt from Israel. Matter of fact, when we get into these scriptures and we dive into these scriptures, every time when Mary and Joseph, so you know their names as, when they took the baby, Yahushua HaMashiach, when he was born to flee from Herod, they did it on foot. Did they not? Did they need a boat to get from Israel to Egypt? They did not. But the book of Deuteronomy says you will go again on ships into Egypt, and no man will buy you. That's why every president lets you down. That's why every leader is killed. Because no man is going to get you out of this. The only thing that's going to get you out of this is the Most High. And you fulfilling that prophecy. In 2020, that prophecy was fulfilled, marking the beginning of sorrows. Through one man's sin, all of us were destined to die. But through one man's death, all of us have the ability to live. Through one man's decision, who walked in the cool of the day, Adam. He walked in the cool of the day with the Most High. He was able to interact. He was able to talk. He was able to exchange with the Most High like we couldn't even imagine. His one decision destroyed that. But the life of Yahshua HaMashiach, our Yahusha, our HaMashiach, his sacrifice as the Passover lamb returned what Adam lost. When you break this down, some people don't believe in the Immaculate Conception. I'm here to tell you that Satan knew the prophecy. How do we know he knew the prophecy? Well, just put up Genesis 3. When it said, when he told the serpent that the seed of the woman will crush your head. We know, those of you who like science so much, we know that the man carries the seed. The woman is the incubator. So how could the seed of the woman crush his head? Because it was Yahshua, Yahusha HaMashiach, that he was referring to, that will crush the head of the serpent. And when we begin to study this, those who don't believe in Immaculate Conception, you don't believe in common sense. We are all destined to die because we are descendants of Adam. And we come out of the loins of a man. But death could not hold him because he never came out of the loins of a man. This is why death had no reign over him. He was not subject to the curse that Adam put upon us because he did not come out of the loins of man. And he lives. And I'm here to tell you his second coming is coming. Let's read in Matthew where he talks about the return. Matthew 24, beginning at verse 3.
And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the Talmudim came to him,
The disciples.
separately saying, Say to us, when shall this be, and what is the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And answering said to them, Take heed that no one lead you astray.
Take heed that no man deceive you.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am HaMashiach, and they shall lead many astray. And you shall begin to hear of fightings and reports of fightings. See that ye are not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and reign against reign, and there shall be scarcities of food, and deadly diseases, and earthquakes in places.
Say it one more time. Say it. Read that script. Read that verse one more time.
For nation shall rise against nation, and reign against reign, and there shall be scarcities of food, and deadly diseases, and earthquakes in places. And all these are the beginning of sorrows, or beginning of birth pains.
Pause. Have we not seen earthquakes in diverse places? Have we not seen famines? Have we not seen pestilence or diseases? It's running rapid. Keep going.
And these are all the beginning of birth pains. Then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and ye shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake.
I'm here to tell you that right now, those of us who was catching hell here in America, because of, we thought our skin color, it wasn't, it was the blood. Because we were the bloodline descendants. And this was prophesied that we would go through this period. Those of us who was catching it from left, right, up, and down, on all fronts. When you look at the Gentiles who were believing, they never were being persecuted during this time here in America for their belief. But that period ended, and we entered into the beginning of sorrows, where we are now. And I'm here to tell you that what you're about to see is those who truly belong to God, those who are truly set apart, who understands what this is and what it does to your temple and how that is not of Elohim. We are going to be isolated behind that. As you begin to see them filter out, you're going to see that only those who have the Ruach HaKodesh truly living on the side and on the inside of them are going to be able to withstand and endure. When they begin to take jobs, when they begin to say, you can't come into this restaurant, you can't come into this grocery store, you can't purchase anything here unless you're fully, you're going to see those who are conscious but lack the Ruach, those who don't trust the government but lack the Ruach, those who just like, hey, they going too hard, they pushing too hard for this, but lack the Ruach, they're going to fold. And you're going to see the majority of people will be with this program. And what you're going to see at that time is those who are holding out are only those who are truly sold out to Elohim and have truly given their lives to Him and who trust in Him to be their cure, Him to be their Savior, Him to be their refuge, Yahuwah, Him to be their help, their redemption, waiting on the second coming of Yahusha when He would deal with those who are persecuting His people for His name's sake. Where do you lie? Where do you stand? Do you have the Ruach HaKodesh living on the inside of you? When you have the fortitude to say no, when everyone you know has said yes, and they're pressuring you on your job, they're pressuring you in your family, they're pressuring you in your neighborhood, where will you stand? Keep reading.
And then many shall stumble, and they shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another.
Pause. Many will stumble. Many will give in, like you just heard me say. And then those who know that you haven't gotten it will say, Jayla don't have it. I'm talking about family members. Moonie ain't got it. He's been preaching this whole time against it. They will deliver you to be persecuted. Keep reading.
And many false prophets shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. But he who shall have endured to the end shall be saved. And the good news of the reign shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end shall come.
I'm here to tell you people, we're in the beginning of the sorrows. Each day that go by, you're going to start to see it tighten up as we move into the tribulation period, the period where, like Yeshua said, He didn't say those who, did He say those who were left behind are going to be given up for persecution? No. He said all of those who serve Him will be given up for persecution, and they will put you to death for His name's sake. Check yourself. Make sure that you are truly living according to this word. That you have truly given everything you got. And you're giving everything you got to serve Him. Are you waking up every day seeking His will or yours? I'm here to tell you, if you have not totally surrendered your life to Yahuwah and accepted Yahushua HaMashiach, you're damned. And we see these things coming, but who says you're going to make it there? Every day you get in your car, you could have a wreck. Every day you go outside your house, there could be a shooting. Every night you go to sleep, you could not wake up. Eternity is on the line. Choose this day whom you will serve. Surrender your life to the Most High through Yahushua HaMashiach. That's all I have today. And I'm going to end on this. Is what you living out, you truly willing to die for. Peace and blessings, people. Shabbat Shalom.